December is National Suicide Prevention Month, and many of those who take their own lives are our veterans. The effort to bring those numbers down continues. 6 News' Joe Harris talked to several people involved with Sarpy County's veterans population to learn more.
You may have heard of the ruck marches and the participants carrying 22 pounds in their rucksacks to symbolize the number of veterans who kill themselves in this country every day. According to the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, that number dropped to 17 in 2020.
The care in the wanting to help our veterans has always been there.
27-year Army vet Ron Hernandez started his own nonprofit, Moving Veterans Forward, which helps move homeless vets into homes and provides them furnishings. He's seen plenty of the mental health issues these warriors face and how tough it is for many of them to seek help.
I'm good to go. I don't need no help. And sometimes you just got to swallow your pride.
He feels the opportunities for Sarpy County's vets are there.
The biggest issue is the actual veteran taking that first step. And that's a pride and dignity thing that we have in the military.
The VA recently launched a public service announcement campaign called Don't Wait, Reach Out, which encourages vets who are struggling to visit its comprehensive website. Just as important, Hernandez feels, is a buddy system where their fellow veterans or others are checking in on them.
A 15-second text message could make the difference between somebody living and dying.
Newly appointed Sarpy County Veterans Service Office Director Dana Morris agrees.
You need to be able to relate and express those feelings or what's going on within your particular situation to someone that has a sympathetic ear.
His office does not provide mental health services, but in the process of helping veterans apply for health care, housing, and disability benefits, it can refer them to the VA for mental health assistance.
We work within that environment on a daily basis, so it's something that we're familiar with, as well as understand the scope of a lot of the situations that are going on.
Hernandez says the important thing for vets to remember is that they still have a purpose, and it's okay to try and get a leg up on the challenges they face. On your side, Joe Harris, 6 News.